everybody out there. Welcome to the podcast for empathy and imagination. My name is Aubrey Cloutier.
And I am Drew Clark, and I would like to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to the podcast for empathy and imagination. Thank you. Welcome. Let's speak. Let's
speak.
sit.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Let's get underway. We got a check-in or anything?
Yeah, let's check in, man. All right.
How you doing? How you doing?
How am I doing? Let's see. Let's check in. Okay, so I'm doing good.
Doing well?
Doing
Okay.
well.
Good.
Doing good. Well.
How's your grammar?
My business is feeling good. The bumps feel natural. The challenges are oh yeah, this would be hard.
Any super
Okay.
challenges so far?
Super challenges. Well, there was a big difficulty, actually, but we survived it, and
What was his
I'll
name?
describe it. So we were doing the route together on Friday, like we do, and then we got an email from one of the clients that they were canceling service.
I thought you did it alone.
I do it alone, but on Fridays, my wife Rebecca comes
okay.
with me if she can.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So that's fun.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
It is really fun. And it took a little bit getting used to how to explain stuff and what speed is where and who does
Yeah.
there were a couple of stepped on toes as we got that going.
Cool.
But we figured it out, and we do it well.
Nice.
And we got this email last Friday going, this guy's going to cancel his service because he said that there were leaves in his pool after I cleaned it the other day. And
Uh-oh.
I know. So
Leaves?
So yeah, there were some leaves in his pool. So we message the sellers of the pool route that we bought, and they're like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's your problem. And we were like, well,
'Cause you own the route, you own the problems.
right? But we're still under escrow. So there was at the time
see.
there was 5 more days of escrow. So if you lose an account, it's on them to replace it in the 90 days of escrow, right? But if you lose an account due to negligence of service,
then it's on you.
Then it's on me.
Mm.
And the
Interesting.
sellers, they reacted. They said some things and they got upset, and they were they turned on the blame thrower, and it got a little ugly.
Mm.
And I calmly listened and repeated back and asked questions, and then he's like, I gotta go, and hung up.
Ooh.
And
You tried a little NVC on them?
I did. And the thing is, what happened was we looked at the situation, we thought about it, we're like, okay, let's go to this guy, say, hey, person who quit service, hey, how about you give us a second chance, and we'll give you a big discount for this month.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes moving forward. And he wrote back. He was like, hey, I totally would. Thanks for the discount. Actually, you guys are great. Appreciate it. But I already got someone else, so let's see how they go.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, okay. And since then, we reached out to the sellers and said, hey, look, we took this action. We reached out to them like you suggested, and wanted to move forward. And they responded very calmly and lovingly, and go, okay, great, thanks. You guys have been great too. And we sort of had a thank you session afterwards, but there was some fire.
So you resolved it with the escrow people?
We resolved it without even have to bother them. We resolved it with just communicating with the sellers. So we actually averted a need for arbitration, just using NVC and common sense, basically.
Huh. The blame thrower.
Yeah. But I luckily know how to do blame thrower judo, so it doesn't. I just. It's all right.
Should use that in our band.
Blame thrower judo. Yeah. It requires
cool.
it requires someone talking, though. Anyway. So yeah. So that felt a lot, but it felt good. I feel very fortunate to be in the position I'm in, and I'm enjoying my relationships in life, and
Good.
and then I won't go into it, but there's some cool interest in the musical world, and that'll be one of my topics later, and that feels good. and I'll explain that later. A little sneaky tip there.
Cool.
So, yeah, I guess
Sounds
that's
like
my
you're doing
check-in. That's my
pretty
check-in
good.
for now. Feeling pretty good. Thanks for being here. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, how about you, man? What's your vibe? How you checking in?
Oh, doing all right, I guess. I don't know.
Elaborate.
Lot going on.
Give us a little more.
What do you want? Personal
Yeah,
stuff?
personal stuff.
All right. Well, my mom was just diagnosed with ocular lymphoma, which is a form of cancer. It travels via the blood. That's some heavy news.
It is heavy.
Prognosis is not the greatest. But as Oliver Sacks once said, the median is not the message. So you can't trust, just because you see a stat on averages doesn't mean that's the case. You can always beat the average, right?
True that.
On the either side of the average, there's always possibilities.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping for a good possibility, and yeah, so that's fucked. And
Does that feel fucked? Is that how that feels?
well, yeah, feels fucked.
Mm.
But it also feels like the natural progression of life. I mean, life is suffering, and if you can find a way to bear that suffering in a way that makes it tolerable, that seems like nirvana, right? So yeah, it's weird, and that leads into all kinds of like family, past burying the hatchet,
Ah.
right?
Hmm.
That's come up. Not for me personally. My hatchets are buried there, but
You keep them.
my brother and stuff.
Your brother had some hatchets to bury,
Yeah, with my dad.
and that's occurring.
I'm not sure if it's occurring. I haven't actually spoken to my brother about it since he texted me a few days ago. But so that was a few days ago. Found out about that, and
I'm sorry, man.
the thing about the eye cancer is that it travels via the blood.
Mm-hmm.
So the risk is that it metastasizes in your liver. That's usually how people die from it. You can save the eye, but if the cancer is traveling through your blood, via your blood into your liver, and it metastasizes there. But anyway, if they catch it soon enough, then things might be good.
Yeah.
So,
How's that feel? Can you
Mom,
share
if
that?
you're listening, I love you,
Hmm.
and I'll be visiting in Thanksgiving. So.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's a little heavy.
How does that? Can you say how that feels?
Well, it feels shitty
Hmm.
in the sense that just anytime you think about someone that you love dying, it'll ruin your day.
Yeah.
Just even if you're just sitting there unprompted and you just start thinking about that. Oh, everyone I know is going to die, and I'm going to die too. It can really bum you out.
Hmm.
So, and I pull the empathy trigger, and my feelings are sort of, I mean, they're important, but they're not, I'm not that concerned with my own thing.
You're more concerned with her than yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to. It would be nice to have kids so that she could have a couple grandkids. That would be a cool thing to have happen. And
She
I
has
wanted
one
that to happen.
grandchild?
She has one grandkid right now. It'd be nice to have like 7.
For mom.
So I'm responsible for like 6.
Well, you better get on it.
But I think that would, that's a cool thing to have happen if you're a mom. Have 2 sons and they each have kids, and so seems like a nice.
I think
life
about that.
event.
I think about that sometimes too.
Yeah, so that feels a little
That feels shitty.
stressful and shitty. But it also makes me. I mean, I realize that I am more of an optimist
Huh.
than a pessimist.
How so? 'Cause you're picturing the good prognosis and
picturing a good prognosis, and I'm not getting like super morbidly depressed about it. I'm just sort of carrying on and like, well, that's happening.
it's another thing
It's
that's
not-
happening.
Doesn't define me. It's just something that's happening. Things are always happening, and yeah. So it's sad, but I'm positive about it. And she has a positive attitude, so that helps. She's like a positive person, so that helps. That helps your immune system.
Being positive.
Yeah, totally.
Right, fucking on. Maybe we could give her a call sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get her positivity on the show. She left a message one time.
She did left a message on her 50th podcast. So yeah, that I'm not doing the hot tubs anymore.
Right.
So that feels good.
Still feels-
stress levels way down.
Stress level down, even though you lost the income. Still,
Yeah.
stress level down.
But it's all balance. If you ever think that you're gonna get the upper hand on life, here's a pro tip. You won't. And life will even you out, man. It'll balance you out. You'll have highs and lows. One thing will end, and another thing will immediately appear and begin.
It's funny how that happens.
Like the hot tub thing stops, and there's
White.
other opportunities that happen. So you just got to trust that for every death, there's a life. And it seems like for every death, there's more than one life. Because the population's going up.
It is quite rapidly.
And I think the total amount of people who've ever lived is around 17 billion
People?
ever.
Hmm.
Which means behind each one of us stands like 15 ghosts.
Well, like
14 ghosts.
3 ghosts. Because there's like 7 billion people. You said there's 17, so there's like no 1 point.
Well, yeah, 2 or
3.
3, yeah. Those numbers could be off, but
You know, somewhere in there is the
somewhere
point.
in there.
I get that.
So most of the people that have existed are dead, which means you want to talk about the 1%. We're in the less than 1%. We're privileged to be alive.
Extremely.
Because out
Very
of
privileged to be alive.
percentage-wise, we're in the 1% of people who are alive, which means that we're alive. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So that's something to be
So you're feeling
positive about.
grateful too? That's cool.
Yeah. Feeling grateful.
So shitty plus grateful. Man, okay.
Yes.
In your check-in and your feelings, is there anything else there? I'm curious. At the same time of all this stuff.
Playing a lot of music. Might be playing. Well, I am going to be at least one time playing in a quote unquote yacht rock project.
Okay.
That's next weekend. So that's fun.
Yacht rock.
Like Hall & Oates, Bee Gees style stuff.
Okay.
Yacht rock is the modern term.
For like disco?
Doobie Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah. Not so much disco, but like, I don't know, Philly soul kind of genre. R&B sort of. So that should be fun.
That's cool. When's
So I
that?
get-
When and where is that happening? When's your show? Is that a show? Can people go
no,
to
it's
it?
just it's just a practice, getting together with some people.
Oh, you're just having like a cool jam.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna like
Next
film it
Sunday.
and stuff?
So first get together. I don't think we're gonna film it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not
Heard,
sure
heard.
where it's going, but
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought you guys like had some like party booked.
no.
Oh, okay.
No. It's just a new opportunity,
Cool, man.
and so it's cool. Female singer.
Can we hear anything from that group? Are they a group?
They
or-
don't. No, they're not even a group yet. It's right on ground
Oh.
floor. Ground floor entry.
Oh, okay.
Revolving door.
Yacht rock.
Ground floor.
And they need some tasty bass. Is that what's up?
They need some tasty grooves and some tasty low end, which I'm happy to oblige.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Always be learning, always be improving.
Nice. Well,
So that's most of that's my check-in, I guess.
that's your
mostly.
check-in. Thanks for checking in.
A lot of death.
Death.
A lot of death. You know, I was looking through. So I got this from my college. I got like this book recently because the 20-year reunion was 25-year reunion was last year or something. So they sent out a book of contact information for people,
Ooh.
and I was sort of looking through it. And the back page is deceased members of the class.
No. How sad and scary that must be.
And two of them I knew about. And they were actually people I was sort of friends with. But then this was like back a few months ago. I was looking through it and I was like, what the and it said Fritz Musser. And I was like, what?
You knew Fritz?
He was my freshman roommate.
He died?
He was stabbed hiking alone in the Caucasus Mountains. Just murdered by,
What?
just like robbed by some drunk dude
Hiking in the
who
mountains.
stabbed him. Yeah.
So some crazy motherfucker in the mountains was stabbing people, and your freshman roommate...
I don't know if he was crazy. He was just, desperate, something, drunk. And it was fucked, man. Because
It was fucked.
I just thought, like, you just think everyone's going to live forever, right? You always sort of think, well, I'm going to be the one who dies, and everyone else is going to live.
That's what I often think, too.
Yeah. So, and he was like this. He was from Chicago. He was this Russian. I think his parents were Russian. I'm not sure where his dad was.
Were they in a
Might
hurry?
have been deceased. Yeah, they were in a huge hurry. And I remember freshman day, or first day, freshman year, walking into the room, and I just went to public school. I didn't know I didn't know what to
So-
expect at all.
Roommate, like, you guys... Oh, okay, so this is
Yeah,
high
we roomed
school.
together for a whole year
In high school.
in college. First
In
year of
col-
college.
You lived in the same dorm.
Same room.
College?
Which is in the same
Got
room,
it,
yeah.
okay. No, okay.
And yeah, I remember like it was just him, his mom, and his sister. And his mom's like this old diminutive woman, and his sister I think was blind. I don't know where his father was. He might have been deceased. And Fritz was just like this sort of. He's very funny. And he's very smart, and I think he went to military school, so he was sort of jockish. He just had all these interests. He was always doing shit. And he was a little bit of a lascivious, in a good way.
I don't know what that word means.
He's just like kind of sexed, sexed. I don't want to like speak ill of him. It wasn't an ill thing.
We're
It
telling
was
the
like-
story, so what's the truth about him? What's
Well,
good
the
to
truth
know?
was just like he was just kind of a horn dog.
Oh, so he
I mean,
was promiscuous.
just like everybody else. I don't know if he was promiscuous, but he was just. He sort of had that. He liked dirty jokes and stuff like that.
So he spoke of sexuality.
yeah.
often.
He was
Okay.
just an average dude, really. And he rode the unicycle.
Huh.
Yeah, that was something unique. And he would always say, I was always in bands and stuff, and he would always say, we never like hung out, because we were just sort of in different cliques, but he was always like, hey, don't forget about me once you become a rock star.
He knew you were going to do well in the industry.
And now he's not around. And just totally senseless, pointless, meaningless death.
Just stabbed for a
And
wallet
it's
or
just
something.
Like, yeah. And it's like, man, what a shitty end result for such a cool dude. And super positive guy, too.
But he
Anyway.
was like your age?
Yeah, he's my age.
Like 21?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, rest in peace, Fritz.
Yeah, Fritz.
Fritz Wolfgang Musser. Cool name. So,
Huh.
moving on.
Dang, death.
Yeah.
Well, let's I want to take a moment to just kind of go, okay, take a breath, listen to that,
Take a
let it
moment.
in. All the death, scariness, scary stuff. Let's just hold space, a little empathy for that for a minute. And okay, so let's do that. Let's have like a quick moment. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for that moment of silence. I just felt like we needed to break that up with something.
Yeah,
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
that.
Yeah. Well, love you. And it's a lot of stuff all at once.
Yeah,
I think you're doing great.
cool.
Wow, death. Okay. Well, here on the podcast for Empathy and Imagination, we like to talk about topics. We have a few topics for you today. I think we're going to some topics. Aubrey, would you like to start with topics, or shall I
I got no
start?
topics.
Okay,
Why don't
I'm
you
going
hit
to
me with a
start
topic?
with the topic. I'm going to do a little bit of reading, and we'll go ahead and show the El Audience, the visual folks, what's going on here. So, ready for the topic?
I'm ready.
U.S. report says humans cause climate change, contradicting top Trump officials.
Ooh.
So that's like a very standard. You hear that headline everywhere. That's just you hear that every week. So, but
Something
something
about climate change every week.
something changed.
I'm not sure what to believe or think about climate change.
I
to be
know,
honest.
right? Right. Directly contradicting much of Trump's administration's position on climate change, 13 federal agencies unveiled an exhaustive scientific report on Friday that says humans are the dominant cause of global temperature rise that has created the warmest period in the history of civilization. Over the past 115 years, global average temperatures have increased 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, leading to record-breaking weather events and temperature extremes, report says. The global long-term warming trend is unambiguous, it says. There is now no convincing alternative explanation that anything other than humans, the cars we drive, the power plants we operate, the forests we destroy, are to blame. The report was approved for release by the White House, but the findings come as the Trump administration is defending its climate change policies. The United Nations convenes its annual climate change conference next week in Bonn, Germany, and the American delegation is expected to face harsh criticism over President Trump's decision to walk away from the 195-nation Paris Climate Accord, and top administration officials stated doubts about the cause and impacts of a warming planet. Quote, excuse me, this report has some very powerful, hard-hitting statements that are totally at odds with senior administration folks and at odds with their policies, end quote, said Philip B. Duffy, president of the Woods Hole Research Center. Quote, it begs the question, where are members of the administration getting their information from? They're obviously not getting it from their own scientists, end quote. While there were pockets of resistance in the report in the Trump administration, according to climate scientists involved in drafting the report, there was little appetite for a knockdown fight over climate change among Mr. Trump's top advisors, who were intensely focused on passing a tax reform bill, which is the big thing in the news now, an effort they think would determine the fate of the presidency.
Huh.
The climate science report is part of a congressionally mandated review conducted every 4 years, known as the National Climate Assessment. The report, the product of hundreds of experts within the government and the academia and peer-reviewed by the National Academy of Sciences, it's considered the United States' most a definitive statement on climate change science. The White House put out a statement Friday that seemed to undercut the high level of confidence in the report's findings. Quote, "The climate has changed and is always changing," end quote. Raj Shah, a White House spokesman, said in the statement, quote, "As the Climate Science Special Report states, the magnitude of future climate change depends significantly on remaining uncertainty in the sensitivity of Earth's climate," end quote, to greenhouse gas emissions. He added, "Despite the scientific consensus presented in the report, the Environmental Protection Agency has scrubbed references to climate change from its website and barred its scientists from presenting scientific reports on the subject." The EPA Administrator, Scott Pruitt, said that carbon dioxide is not a primary contributor to warming, and Rick Perry, the Energy Secretary, asserted Wednesday that, quote, "the science is out on whether humans cause climate change." Their agencies referred to questions in the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which oversaw the research. The report has provoked a consternation in scientific circles for months, though the study has been in the works since 2015. Several scientists said the election of Mr. Trump, who was labeled climate change a canard, quotes, and appointed cabinet members who dispute the scientific consensus, caused them to worry the report would be blocked or buried. This did not happen. Scientists who work on the report said none of the 13 agencies that reviewed it tried to undermine its findings or change its wording. "I'm quite confident to say," this is a quote, "I'm quite confident to say that there has been no political interference on the message," end quote, from David Fahey, a NOAA scientist and the lead author of the report, where the fears we have had weren't realized. Responsibility for approving the report fell to Gary C. Cohn, director of the National Economic Council, who generally believes in the validity of climate science, and though the issue would have been a distraction from the tax push, according to an administration official with knowledge of the situation. There's a little picture here. Our viewers are watching, but if you're listening at home, it's a picture of a clock and thermometer in Phoenix, and it says it's 6:37 and 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Phoenix experienced record highs in June. The report says there are no convincing alternative explanations. Right. So, okay. One of Mr. Cohn's top policy deputies, Michael Catanzaro, had the authority to block, delay, or change the report. But Mr. Catanzaro, a former energy advisor to President Bush, and former Speaker John A. Boehner,
John A. Boehner?
Yeah, Boehner, chose instead to follow the lead of the Obama administration by referring the report back to more than a dozen federal agencies for feedback. The review, according to two people familiar with the process, went relatively smoothly. Surprisingly, some scientists who worked on the report who had expected more resistance. The only significant turbulence, according to one person familiar with the process, came from a mid-level political appointee at the Department of Energy who grilled the report's author on changes that had been made to temperature and other climate data over the years. For changes that had been made to temperature. The authors responded by adding a more detailed explanation of their methodology, and all of the agencies then gave their approval, the person said. Mr. Trump was barely aware of the report's existence, several White House officials said. Some critics of climate change science attacked the report as the product of holdovers from the Obama administration and chastised the Trump administration for allowing it to be published. Quote, "I'm saddened that they have decided they will let the permanent government, the civil servants, continue down this road without supervision," end quote, said Myron Ebel, director of the Global Warming Policy at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, a libertarian advocacy group. Scientists said the report's findings were clear. Quote, "This new report simply confirms what we already knew. Human-caused climate change isn't just a theory, it's reality," said Michael E. Mann, a professor of atmospheric science at Penn State.
Michael Mann?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some lawsuits against him.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Quote, "Whether we're talking about unprecedented heat waves, increasingly destructive hurricanes, epic drought, and inundation of our coastal cities, the impact of climate change and they're no longer subtle. They're upon us, and that's the consensus of our best scientists as laid bare by this latest report," end quote. The report says Earth has set temperature highs for 3 years running, and the 6 of the last 17 years are the warmest years on record for the globe. Whether catastrophes from flood or hurricanes to heat waves have cost the United States $1.1 trillion since 1980, and and the report warns that such phenomena may become common. Quote,
How far back does our data go? It goes pretty far back, right?
at least it reliably starts in the late 1800s,
yeah.
and it gets way clearer in the 1940s.
Yeah. So on record just means last 200 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The frequency and intensity of extreme high temperature events are virtually certain to increase in the future as global temperature increases, the report notes. Extreme precipitation events will very likely continue to increase in frequency and intensity throughout most of the world. In the United States, the report finds that every part of the country has been touched by warming, from droughts in the southeast to flooding in the Midwest, to a worrying rise in air and ground temperatures in Alaska, and the conditions will continue to worsen. This assessment continues based on extensive evidence that it is extremely likely that humans' activities, especially emissions of greenhouse gases, are the dominant cause of observed warming since the mid-20th century, the report states. For the warming over the last century, there is no convincing alternative explanation, supported by the extent of the observational evidence. Yeah, so this profoundly affects our ability to be leaders in developing new technologies and understanding how to build successful communities and businesses in the 21st century, said Christopher Field, director of Stanford Woods Institute on the Environment. Choosing to be dumb about our relationship with the natural world is choosing to be behind the eight ball. So, I'd like to hear initial thoughts, and then I'm going to go into something else.
Climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
And I think the controversy surrounds the idea that once you have super complex models, the predictive value of super complex models goes down the more complex the model is. For example, economics, where they're notoriously complex models and no one ever gets anything right.
Well, economics isn't science, but increasingly complex models is like iPhones.
But it's similar in that there are so many variables in such a vast system of variables that you come up with these complex models, as you do in climate change. And that's where the controversy sort of resides, is like, well, sure, your model shows that this one's going up, or that this is happening, but the model is so complex that it makes it the probability of it being correct less, the more complex it is.
Well, I mean, we make all. I mean, we're basically an iPhone commercial on this show, and
that's true.
We make all this stuff. This is all complex equations. It gets further and further complex, and it's reliably created, longevity, holding up. It's like, I don't know if that's fully true in the world of science, but economics to me is not a science. It's all a guess. But we can measure temperatures.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying science versus not science. I'm just addressing the idea of complex models having predictive value.
Okay.
And I'm just saying the more complex, whatever area of study you're in, the more complex of a model you have to try to simulate what's happening, the less predictive value it has.
The more complex it gets.
That's why there's controversy in climate science. And also, I think this guy Michael Mann, he is spearheading this whole movement. But he's just like, yeah, the data shows, my studies show that this is happening. And people are like, well, you're a scientist, can we see the data? And he's like, no, it's proprietary.
Well, I don't know anything about that. The thing I just talked about. That's just
what I've heard, and it seems a little weird.
Well, what I just explained was peer-reviewed by 12 extra groups and then approved by the White House. So I don't think that's this.
True. And there's the other thing that I've heard. I don't necessarily believe it. I just heard it, and I'm passing it along now to you. Just because I say it doesn't mean I believe it. However, there was, I think, a woman scientist who had opposite conclusions. She's like, yeah, that's climate change is nothing to worry about. And she was saying that there was so much pressure. She was basically shunned from the community of scientists because her results contradicted their results. And that, to me, that's worrying if that's true. That's worrying because science shouldn't be pushing an agenda. They should be open to all studies.
Can she, our 12 groups peer reviewing what she has to say? I mean, if they did, then maybe we'd learn something.
Well, her point was like you have to toe the line, or else you're just called a quack.
Toe the line. How does that? What does that?
Like you have to agree, or else you're out. That was what she was saying.
Well,
and that's about all I know about that.
Who is this lady?
I don't know. That's all I know.
Okay. Well, maybe she's right, but
I'm
we
just
got
trying to
to
articulate.
we got to peer review it. You know.
Of course.
So right now, there
she was
isn't really.
she was saying that other scientists were reluctant to peer review things that contradicted the narrative that climate change is real and we're all fucked. That was her point.
Well, where
and her point
who
was
is
like
she?
her point was like that's not science. Science should be enthusiastic about disproving things
Mhm.
because that's all science is constant disproving, right?
Yeah,
And
like
then
the removal of
if
options.
no one
Yeah.
can disprove it, then it becomes a theory.
So
Right.
would you? Is your system of belief
And
that this unnamed person is basically the only holder of truth, and that these folks are incorrect?
no, that's not my belief.
Okay, what is your?
I'm just saying these are some of the controversies that I've heard surrounding climate change. This is what I know of it,
Okay.
and I don't know very much about it. I don't know what to believe because the models are so complex, and because I'm not an expert on climate change,
Okay.
so I have no idea what to believe.
Let's check out NASA, the global climate change vital signs of the planet. These are the facts from NASA. Scientific consensus: Earth's climate is warming. We got a image here. Can you see it? Should take a look at it. Has the dates here. Starting
What's the first date?
1880, and then really about 1950, it comes, or about 1945, it has a big spike, but then the last several decades have just been rapidly climbing.
What is the plot? Just temperature?
Temperature anomaly Celsius. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Multiple.
there's been fluctuations, hot spots and ice ages all throughout.
Well, this is not an ice.
History.
We are still between ice ages in this graph. We are coming to an ice age.
I'm just saying, there's always it's always gotten hotter and then colder. So
True.
So
Like,
that just muddies the waters because it's hard to know if this is just a natural result of, and this has happened before, or if it's a new thing.
Well, it muddies less if you hear NASA's thing on it. Multiple studies published in peer-reviewed scientific journals show that 97% or more of actively published climate scientists agree climate warming trends over the past century are extremely likely due to human activities. In addition, most of the leading scientific organizations worldwide have issued public statements endorsing this position. The following is a partial list of these organizations, along with the links to their published statements and a selection of related resources. So, I'm just going to read this as a list. Statements on climate change from 18 scientific associations. Observations throughout the world make it clear that climate change is occurring, and rigorous scientific research demonstrates that the greenhouse gases emitted by human activities are the primary driver. Okay. American Association for the Advancement of Science. The scientific evidence is clear. Global climate change caused by human activities is occurring now and is a growing threat to society. The American Chemical Society. Comprehensive scientific assessments on our current and potential future climates clearly indicate that climate change is real, largely attributed to emissions from human activities, and potentially a very serious problem. The American Geophysical Union. Human-induced climate change requires urgent action. Humanity is the major influence on the global climate change observed over the past 50 years. Rapid societal response can significantly lessen negative outcomes. The American Medical Association. Our AMA supports the findings of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Fourth Assessments report and concurs with scientific consensus that the Earth is undergoing an adverse global climate change and that anthropogenic contributors are significant. American Meteorology Society. It is clear from extensive scientific evidence that the dominant cause of rapid change in climate in the past half century is human-induced increase in the amount of atmospheric greenhouse gases.
I mean, that seems like it would be true because there's human biomass is so massive now.
True, including carbon dioxide. chlorofluorocarbons, methane, and nitrous oxide, which makes you go fast. It's for heavy revving.
Ooh.
American Physical Society. The evidence is incontrovertible. Global warming is occurring if no mitigation actions are taken. Significant disruptions in the Earth's physical and ecological systems, social systems, security, and human health are likely to occur. We must reduce emissions of greenhouse gases beginning now. The Geological Society of America. The Geological Society of America concurs with the sentiments by the National Academy of Science, the National Research Council, and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that global climate has warmed and that the human activities, mainly greenhouse gas emissions, account for most of the warming since the mid-1900s. Okay. So there's a bunch of other science academies, too. So the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, U.S. Global Change Research Program, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, as we mentioned, and then there is a list of references for all the data here cited on NASA's page. So here, folks, if you want to check that out, you can totally check that out. climate.nasa.gov. There's all the links. And you can explore more.
I mean, how could human activity not be changing things, you know?
Right. How could it not be? I think the story that it's all confusing and we can't tell is harmful fake news. I think the fact that we've got this clear of an evidence by NASA and by all these independent science researchers and now the White House, they can't stop it.
Yeah, but well, just remember that the White House is basically the DMV. So just because it's the government doesn't mean that they're super efficient,
right?
And
but
competent.
They can't deny anymore. They can't.
Just throwing that out there. So what do we do about it?
So we talk about it. We stop saying it's all fuzzy and we can't tell.
But let's say everyone agrees that it's happening. Now what do we do?
We invest in alternatives. We take money and we take
Alternatives
it
to what?
to greenhouse gas emitting activities. We invest ideas, money, people, research, in finding ways to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. That's what we do. Invest. Like there's two.
Okay.
I've got so much of this scientific talk here that's like there really isn't any scientific backing with multiple groups over thousands of people over decades of time that's anywhere close to saying anything more reasonable than that we're a main causer. And when I first heard about this, I fought it. I went and saw Inconvenient Truth, and I was like, I don't think so. And actually, I'm now going to bring up something.
Well, I guess what
I think would be good to consider.
What is bad about this?
About what?
Climate change.
Well, it's going to kill some people, and it's going to cost trillions, and
a
bunch of relocating, like refugees in the billions. Like it's going to be really, really rough. But I'm going to bring up some to be a contrarian. There it is.
So people have been relocating all throughout history,
but not by force, by the millions.
Plus, it'll be the effects will be so slow, right? It's not like suddenly tons of people will die. I mean, it's like a centimeter of ocean goes up by a centimeter a year or something, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not like all of a sudden there's a catastrophe, right? It's kind of a slow-moving catastrophe. Am I understanding it correctly?
I think there would the rate at which people would need to move would increase, and it wouldn't go well. Whoa! So I'm just showing you the intro here. This is called The Great Global Warming Swindle. And it's a very engaging documentary. I don't know what I think about it, but
it sounds very epic. Sounds like Lord of the Rings.
So
imagine that we live in an age
right.
of reason, and the global warming alarm is dressed up as science, but it's not science. It's propaganda.
There's no direct evidence which links 20th century global warming to anthropogenic greenhouse gases.
We're just being told lies. That's what it comes down to.
You can't say that CO2 will drive climate. It certainly never did in the past.
If the CO2 increases in the atmosphere as a greenhouse gas, then the temperature will go up. But the ice core record shows exactly the opposite. So the fundamental assumption, the most fundamental assumption of the whole theory of climate change due to humans is shown to be wrong.
The whole thing stinks.
Man.
Okay. The Great Global Warming Swindle is an interesting look at why people think that the anthropogenic global warming isn't true. And here on the podcast for Empathy and Imagination, I want to make sure we can hear not just one opinion.
Sure.
So I have the belief that we are causing it and that we need to make changes now, but I haven't always had that belief.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if anyone's going to have that belief, it ought to be good to see the opposite of that, to look at it and see if you still believe what you believe. So all of you out there who agree with me in anthropogenic global warming, I advocate you watch The Great Global Warming Swindle and see if you still believe the same way as a thought experiment.
Yeah, it's funny how you can be so sure about something and then you change your mind and you're so sure about the new belief.
Yep.
It sort of goes to show that, I think I've said this before, that all ideas are wrong, or at least most ideas that have ever existed and that were once thought to be true have been disproved.
They're at least incomplete.
Incomplete or just false. And so the idea that we know what the fuck we're talking about today is the probability of that is
low,
is near zero.
Low.
100 years from now, we'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe that they thought this or that. And they'll be in the same position we are now, sure that what they believe is the truth, only to find out later that it wasn't.
Isn't that something? That's consistent.
And you sort of have to apply that to every single thing that you believe and think.
How often do you check in
can't-
with your core thoughts?
Fucking daily?
Daily. That's a
Hourly?
lot. That's a lot.
Probably, I do it a lot.
I probably do it twice a year where I
and-
really dig deep on, am I actually who I
Yeah.
think I am?
And part of that is trying to get a broad swath of opinions and sources to butt up against, to test out what you actually believe. You know? Because you sort of have to be testing your values and your principles in order to find out what the parameters are of them and whether or not you actually believe in them and have conviction in them. So I think it's important to get outside of your filter bubble and expose yourself to other ideas that you might not agree with, just to see where you stand yourself.
Mm-hmm. You got to know where the line is somewhere. That's why comedians cross the line.
Yeah.
It's a service that they do that, so you know where the line is. You know?
Comedy is great that way. 'Cause
Oh,
you
it's
can,
excellent.
You can be perpetrating truths that are uncomfortable if they weren't dressed up as jokes. You know, making them funny makes it a little more palatable to hear something that kind of everyone knows is true, but it's uncomfortable to hear. That's one of the great services that comedy does for all of us.
True.
And it would be a shame for satire and comedy to go away under an oppressive thought crime regime.
Thought crime regime? I don't want any part of a thought crime regime.
Me neither. The Queensryche album, Operation Mindcrime, pretty good.
I like Operation Mindcrime.
I always liked Queensryche's, just their the names that they came up with, the aesthetics and stuff.
It's funny.
Like
That's
super.
familiar.
I always thought it was super cheesy but funny.
Right on.
Operation Mindcrime. That's funny.
Yeah.
I
Sounds
think
like
they
a Hollywood
intended it to
movie.
be very serious, which is probably why it's so funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Wiz, do we?
Yeah, it's well here.
You got some?
The next thing is that we have kind of a special extended sounds good.
Okay.
But
Let's hear it.
first, before we do that, the backstory is that I put up my drumming services on Craigslist, and I've gotten some responses of people that wanted to see if I would join their bands, and we're going to hear those bands today,
Okay.
but not before a word from our sponsor.
All right. Thanks, Final Corp, for supporting us. Final Corp is our erstwhile sponsor, our longtime sponsor.
Hey Mom, what's for dinner?
Well, I was thinking of making some gelled meat casserole.
But we had that for breakfast.
Well, how about a nice big stack of salt pancakes with melted gummy bear sauce?
But we had that for lunch today at school.
Okay, honey, how about a couple of bowls of mayonnaise ice cream?
Cool. All right. Yippee. Can I have the poison ivy flavored ice cream?
You sure can.
And dirt fudge.
Yep.
Oh Mom, food's the best.
Thank you to Final Corp, the sponsor of this podcast. They have been in business for over 50 years. They have a new product, I think it's called Downloadable Suffering. You can just go to their site, hit download, and start suffering right away. No waiting. Instantaneous suffering. They also have a new tasty treat, poisonous giant endangered butterfly wraps. These are nutritious wraps made solely from endangered species. This one is butterflies. Final Corp, all the worst products you don't need. Final Corp, it'll be fine. They have purchasable fees. Shout recognition software, and as I just mentioned, downloadable suffering. You can just download it, double click it, and start suffering right away. No waiting. No waiting. That's actually a free product. It's open source suffering. So, thanks again to Final Corp.
Yeah, thanks, Final Corp.
And
It'll be fine.
let's hear Sounds Good.
Okay. So, here we go. Here's the first one. All right, so that band is called Arcane. They're from Concord, California. And they're going to be... Concord. I think they've asked me to possibly join their band.
Some drummist?
I'd be a drummist, yeah.
Cool,
So,
man.
I want to jump right in.
Reminds me of Faith No More.
Isn't that kind of cool?
Faith No More?
This the vocalist here is this cool Spaniard guy. He went a little viral on YouTube.
Can he just be a cool guy?
He is a cool guy too.
Okay.
He works for Pandora.
I mean, why do we have to mention he's Spanish?
Well, because to me, his style and technique feels sort of Spanish to me.
So it's relevant to the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Like his vocal shouts remind me of Spanish music a little bit. And he has this...
does he have a history? Is he like trained in...
Yes, and he's in a bunch of bands, and he has a semi-viral video on YouTube, like 800,000 views or something. And it's just like him talking about how to scream.
It's cool.
And it's just him being silly with like a Borat accent.
It's hard to find singers who are like lead singers.
Who really
All
go
they do
for
is
it.
sing.
Yeah. Heard.
Usually it's like, yeah, I play guitar, but I sing.
I guess I can. Well, that's me. I can sing
Me too.
Yeah.
But to find the guy who's like doesn't
Just
play any
sing.
instruments,
Just wanna
just
sing.
sings.
It's pretty cool.
It's rare in my experience. When we did that Led Zeppelin cover show years ago, we found a guy who was just a lead singer, and he fucking did it. Totally busted it out. Rose to the occasion, big time. Like had his own mic and stuff. I guess Evan has his own mic.
He does that.
But he also plays guitar and drums. Anyway, cool.
So now on the podcast for Empathy and Imagination, we are slipping in a semi-interesting brand new garden update in the middle of a Sounds Good.
Ooh.
It's a three-part garden.
I don't have time for my sound
It's a
effects.
three-part garden update. We're going right now. Ready, set, here we go.
Go.
Welcome. This is the first vlog of Drew and Rebecca at the homestead in Crockett. Today we disassembled a large rock pile down there in that corner, and we pulled some rocks out of this bed here. And what we did is we built this whole bed. Let's go take a look. Okay, so now we're gonna hear the second band. This band is different, and we're gonna hear this song, and then I'll talk more. Ready?
Ready.
Here we go.
Generate failures.
chainsaw. That band
sounded fucking production sounds great.
Yeah.
A lot of parts.
It's
A lot of
called
different-
Justify the Dead.
A lot of different things going on.
Yeah, they're progressive metal or prog
Yeah,
metal.
it's cool.
I really like their clean singing spliced in little spots there. It's like
Yeah.
emo singing mixed in, which just tickles my
I like it.
flirtations. They practice in the city.
It's kind of almost a little too proggy for my taste. But if they invited me to play, I would play with them.
Right.
Because
It'd
it's just
be
fun
fun.
and challenging.
Yeah, it would be challenging. It would be like it would take a lot. I would need to listen to those songs a lot
Yeah.
to learn
It's
them
not your-
on the drums. It's
not your
really
average-
stoppy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fancy
It's
stuff.
like 4 tunes, 4 short songs concatenated into one song.
And that song was 6 minutes and 50 seconds. There was probably 20 individual riffs.
Yeah, it was like 4 minute-and-a-half songs put together.
Yeah, but it's only yeah.
That's what it. I mean,
Yeah, that's the
it
math.
sounded like to me.
It's like
Everything
okay.
I say is my opinion. By the
Right,
way.
and that's the. It's good.
Just want to clarify that.
So that's intriguing to me because that would be quite a challenge. And they were like, maybe we could come, like we do it here once and then do it there once and only meet like twice
In
a
the
month or
city.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I'd go to San Francisco like once a month, basically. And then we could do this band, and so it's like, well, shit, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah,
You
making things work long distance can be a challenge.
It
sometimes.
can be. But if you work hard at it.
If you believe in it and you work hard at it, you can do it.
Yeah, and if everyone involved wants to be doing what they're doing.
Yes.
Yep.
Fun and challenging. Shouldn't human interactions be that way? Fun and challenging, right?
Most are.
It has to be challenging sometimes.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Like if it was never challenging, if no one ever challenged you, or if it was just always easy to get along with people,
Well, that's not real.
that wouldn't. It would also again, it would be like a hell. It would be a version of hell.
Hmm.
Because any kind of stasis, any kind of static condition taken to its extreme, it can be hellish.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
just permanent orgasm.
That would be hell.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a lady who has nearly
I
has
heard
that.
Yeah, I heard that. It's like
She has like
weird
15 a day
condition.
just all the
Yeah,
time.
Just yeah.
It's like totally annoying.
Her mind is just. It's cool that that's kind of encouraging because it's just all in your mind. It's all in your head,
Yeah.
and the other parts just sort of follow what's in your head, maybe.
Mostly. I mean, for men, our eyes are a big deal in that world.
But I guess as a kid, you get a boner just riding on the bus,
Yeah.
not looking at anything.
It sometimes just happens. And sometimes
So,
it
I
happens
guess
for
it's-
ladies, too. They become aroused from
half
nothing
and-
happening.
half and half.
You
You need the mind and their body to be engaged.
And arousal is good. I mean, generally. And it's
I like it.
could be sexual, could be philosophical arousal, could
Yeah.
be all lots of
Intellectual
things.
arousal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you read a good writer, someone who writes well, and you reach a point where you're kind of like, I don't know, and then it clicks. Everything clicks, and you're like, okay. That's a nice intellectual arrival point.
Hmm.
It happens in fiction and nonfiction. And actually, a lot of writers describe it that way, like the click. They'll be writing something, not knowing where it's going. And then suddenly something comes out of the blue, and it just all fits together.
What's cool? See, that sounds like fun. And that makes me
Yeah.
want to try writing when I hear you say that.
But it's it's fun in the sense that you have to do a bunch of work to get there. Like playing a blast beat's probably fun, but you can't just be a newbie and do it. Sit down and do it.
It's very
You sort of have
rare
to
that you
work.
could just sit down and do it.
It's almost like the harder you work, the more of a return of fun you get.
For me, I had this unique experience in the drums where I sat down and just could do it. But it probably was a culmination of mental practice beforehand. Like I'd thought about doing it a lot, which, as you know, in a drumland, thinking about playing the drums is almost as good as practicing the drums.
Right. So it's sort of like visualization, but it's like auditorization.
it's also like musculaturization too, because like it's like what the muscles will be doing. But like when the first time I sat down, I could blast beat. It was just, yeah.
I guess that's what they call talent.
I guess so. I'll appreciate. I resemble that remark. So
I resemble that remark,
thank you.
sir.
Thanks for noticing that about me, and yes, it's true.
Yes,
that's
true.
a phrase we try to say.
Okay.
Someone says a compliment, and you go, "Thanks for noticing that about me," and yes, it's true.
Okay.
It's it's hard. It's hard because the viewers, the listeners, right now, just try to like say something nice about yourself, and then go, "Thanks for noticing that about me," and yes, it's true. It's like it's like lifting a heavy weight. It's like, man, that's hard to do, but the more you do it, the stronger you get at receiving, and then it's cool. Right?
Cool.
There's some empathy and imagination for you. So
I like those topics.
Do you have another thing you want to get on the air?
I actually got to get going here.
Okay. Well then, freaking no, you don't.
But no, I don't.
Well,
really.
Folks, you heard it here, Faust.
You heard it here, Faust.
The podcast for empathy and imagination. We stream live on YouTube every Saturday, mid-afternoon-ish, depending on traffic and technical difficulties,
Yes. Noonish Pacific time.
More like 2-ish Pacific time.
Let's say 2-ish.
Yeah, like 2-ish.
1 to 2.
1 to 2 Pacific. Yeah. And you can see us on iTunes, which could use some updating. Just saying there.
Yes. iTunes, probably the freshest content is going to be YouTube because we stream it live to YouTube.
Yeah. So if you want to find us on YouTube, and you don't have to watch us, but just listen, whatever.
You can just listen.
Yeah. Although there's some funny stuff to look at sometimes.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. We're on Patreon.com, Empathy and Imagination, and Facebook.
Yeah,
Empathy
Facebook. Yeah. So I have the last thing I'm thinking is, audience, maybe let us know what you think. I'm thinking about switching to live streaming on Facebook instead of YouTube. I don't know. I'm curious about your thoughts about that. Curious about if there's any pluses or minuses, and just let us know. Cool.
All right, cool. Thanks for
listening.
Frickin' A. See you next time.
See you next time.
Empathy. Imagination. Empathy. Empathy. Imagination. And empathy. Imagination. Imagine that. Holy shit.
Imagine this.
Oh. Imagine it all.
The owner decided to tear it all up and break all of the concrete down and had it in piles, different areas around the property. Filling in these beds here, kind of making a fence over there, this gigantic pile over here that we've kind of put a dent in today. And we've started to rebuild with the broken concrete available on the property, a bed.
What's that in the middle there?
We've got a little pathway.
Go over there and show us.
We raked in a pathway so that we can start growing vertically over here, and also grow all along through here and all along through here.
What else we got in mind?
Well, we've been watching a lot of Justin Rhodes, who's an awesome guy, and we are very interested in taking on his chickshaw idea and putting it into practice back here in our garden. This is the first step.